There are places in the world where even sound is afraid to exist. Places where silence does not mean peace, but warning. In the northern pack, deep beneath the royal fortress carved into black stone mountains, there is one such place. A place the guards do not name. A place even the bravest warriors refuse to breathe near. They call it Cell 66. But no one says it out loud. Because names give power. And whatever is inside that cell already has too much power left. Heavy iron doors groan open. A wave of cold air escapes from inside the fortress like a dying breath. 2 guards stand at the entrance. Their hands are shaking even before they enter. One of them whispers, "Why do we always get this shift?" The other does not answer immediately. He just swallows hard. Because everyone else refuses. They step inside. And the moment they do, the world above feels like it disappears. The dungeon is not just underground. It feels buried in something heavier than stone. Regret, fear, and memory. Torches flicker weakly on cracked walls, as if even fire is afraid to stay too long here. Chains hang from the ceiling like dead vines. Some of them are broken. Some of them are melted. And some look like they were torn apart by something that did not care about pain. The guards walk slowly. Every step echoes too loudly, too sharply, as if the dungeon is listening. Don't look at cell 66, just pass it. I wasn't planning to look at anything. But even as he says it, his eyes drift. Because humans are not built to ignore fear. They are built to understand it. And fear always pulls the eyes where it wants. They pass cell 64. Empty. Cell 65. Broken chains. Then, cell 66. Everything changes. The air becomes heavier. Not colder. Heavier. Like the world itself is pressing down. The iron door is thicker than the others. Not just locked. Sealed. Ancient runes glow faintly on the metal. Not bright. Not alive. Just awake. Like something inside still remembers how to speak. One guard stops walking. His feet refuse to move closer. No, I'm not going closer than this. Don't stop here. Keep moving. But then, a sound. Low, deep. Not a growl yet. Not fully. Just breath. Heavy breath from inside the cell. And the chains respond. Clink. Clink. Slow movement. Like something massive has shifted in the darkness. The guards step back instantly. A shadow moves behind the bars. Too large to be human. Too structured to be animal. Then, 2 glowing eyes open. Gold. Broken gold. Not wild. Not empty. But, aware. The beast moves once. Just once. And the entire dungeon trembles. Stone cracks slightly near the ceiling. Dust falls like ash. The guards stumble backward. One drops his torch. It rolls across the ground. And stops right in front of cell 66. The flame flickers. As if bowing. It's awake. The beast pulls against its chains. The sound is unbearable. Metal screaming. Stone resisting. Something inside the cell rises. A massive silhouette. Covered in scars. Covered in restraint. And something worse than both. Control. It is not just trapped. It is being held down by force that does not belong to nature. A muzzle is visible now. Black iron. Covered in ancient runes. Locked around its mouth. Not just silence. Forced silence. The beast's head jerks once. And the dungeon shakes again. Soft footsteps echo differently. Not heavy like guards. Not fearful like soldiers. Light. Almost uncertain. Lira enters the corridor. She carries cleaning cloths and a small metal bucket. Her head is down. Her shoulders are thin. She looks like someone who has already learned not to exist loudly. 2 guards at the corridor gate look at her with disgust. You. Omega. No name. Just category. Lira stops. She does not look up. Clean the lower dungeon. No speaking. No stopping. And if you look at cell 66. He leans closer. You die. Lira nods slightly. No fear in her reaction. Not because she is brave, but because she is used to warnings that sound like death. She walks forward, step by step, deeper into the dungeon. As she walks closer to cell 66, the air changes. Not colder, not hotter, heavier. Her chest tightens slightly. She slows. She does not understand why. Something is wrong. Not outside. Inside her. A feeling she has never felt before. Like someone is calling her name. Without speaking. She kneels near the stone wall. Bloodstains are dried into the ground. Old. Dark. She dips the cloth into water and begins cleaning. The sound of chains continues in the distance. Clink. 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 Rhythmic. Alive. But then, it stops. Completely. Lira freezes. She feels it before she sees it. Silence. Not normal silence. The kind that watches. Slowly. She turns her head. Through the bars of cell 66. The beast is looking directly at her. Still. Perfectly still. No movement. No rage. No attack. Just staring. Lyra's breath catches. Her hand stops moving. For a moment. The world disappears. Only those eyes exist. Golden. Broken. Human. Painful. And then, something inside Lyra's chest twists. Not fear. Not danger. Pain. But not hers. Someone else's. A deep emotional ache she cannot explain. Her fingers tighten around the cloth. Why does it feel like you're hurting? The beast reacts. Very slightly. Its head lowers. Slowly. Like the words reached somewhere no one else ever could. The chains around it tighten as it moves. The sound echoes sharply. But it does not care. It keeps watching her. Hey! Stop looking. A guard rushes toward Lira. He grabs her arm violently. Are you insane? Do you want to die? He drags her back. Lira stumbles. Her bucket falls. Water spills across stone. The sound echoes too loudly in the dungeon. Too final. But as she is pulled away, she looks back once. Just once. And sees it. The beast has not moved. But its eyes have changed. Not rage. Not hunger. Something worse. Loss. A low sound escapes its throat. Not a roar. Not a growl. A broken sound. Like something inside it is collapsing quietly. The chains shake slightly. But not from force. From emotion. For the first time. The beast does not feel like a monster. It feels like something abandoned. The guards pull Lira away. Her footsteps fade. The dungeon noise returns. But something has changed permanently. Inside cell 66. The beast lowers its head fully. And remains still. Too still. As if waiting. For her. And in that moment. Deep inside the most forbidden cell in the northern pack. Something impossible begins. Not escape. Not destruction. But recognition. Because for the first time in years. The beast did not react to fear. It reacted to her. And somewhere inside that cursed muzzle, a broken soul begins to remember something it was never supposed to feel again. Hope. The moment Lira is dragged away from cell 66, the dungeon does not return to normal. It only pretends to. Her footsteps echo through the stone corridor as the guard grips her arm tightly, pulling her forward with unnecessary force, as if fear itself needs physical expression to survive in this place. Lira does not resist. She never resists. Not because she is weak in body, but because she has learned that resistance in a place like this only creates more pain, not justice. The guard keeps muttering under his breath, not even looking at her as he speaks, as if speaking to her directly would contaminate him. An omega near cell 66 is already a violation in his mind, even if she was ordered to be there. The corridor opens into a wider chamber, and the air changes immediately. It becomes less suffocating, but not kinder. This is the servant section of the dungeon complex, where those assigned to punishment labor are brought when they are still considered useful enough not to be discarded completely. The guard finally releases her arm with a push that makes her stumble slightly against the wall. She catches herself without complaint, lowering her eyes again, adjusting the bucket that has fallen half over and spilled water onto the stone floor. No one cares. No one ever cares. The guard points at her like she is something unclean that must not be forgotten. He tells her without patience that she is not to speak of what happened near cell 66. Not to anyone. Not even to herself. He warns her that Omegas who draw attention to themselves in forbidden zones do not remain Omegas for long. The implication is clear enough that it does not need to be spoken fully. In this kingdom, punishment is always creative. Lira nods once. That is all she does. And then she is dismissed. But she does not leave the feeling behind. Because something inside her chest is still tight, like a string pulled too hard and never released. It is not fear exactly. Fear has edges. This feeling does not. It is softer, heavier, more confusing. It is as if someone else's suffering has briefly entered her body and left a trace behind. She does not understand it. She has never experienced anything like it before. And in a world like hers, confusion is dangerous. She walks back toward the servant quarters, passing through narrow hallways where stone becomes less polished, less maintained, more neglected. The deeper she goes, the more the kingdom reveals its hierarchy not through words, but through architecture. The upper levels are clean, bright, controlled. The lower levels are damp, broken, forgotten. Omegas live where the kingdom chooses not to look. When she enters the servant hall, the atmosphere shifts again, but in a different way. It is not fear here. It is cruelty softened into routine. Other Omegas look up briefly when she enters, then quickly look away. Not out of respect, but caution. Attention in places like this always leads to trouble, and trouble always finds someone to carry it. A few servants whisper as she passes, their voices sharp but controlled, like they are afraid even gossip might be punished if spoken too loudly. One of them accuses her of stealing supplies earlier in the day. The accusation is not real, but truth is not required here. It never has been. Lira does not respond. She never responds to false blame. She has learned that defending herself only feeds the system that wants her silent. The head maid appears, her presence cutting through the room instantly. She is not loud, but authority in this place does not need volume. It only needs certainty. Her eyes land on Lira, and there is immediate disgust mixed with suspicion. The head maid steps closer, inspecting her as if she might have brought contamination back from the lower dungeon. When she notices the direction Lira has been assigned to today, her expression sharpens further. Cell 66 duty is not a normal punishment assignment. It is something closer to a warning. A controlled exposure to fear. A reminder of what happens when someone becomes inconvenient. The head maid tells her in a low voice that if she causes even the smallest disturbance again, she will be reassigned permanently. Not to another duty. Not to another section. But to something worse. Everyone understands what that means without explanation. Lira simply bows her head slightly. She does not ask questions. She does not plead. She does not cry. And that silence frustrates the head maid more than any protest would have. Because silence cannot be corrected easily. When Lira is finally left alone, she moves to a corner of the room where the light is weakest. She sits down carefully, holding her knees close for a moment. Around her, life continues in fragmented pieces. Conversations begin and end without her. Laughter exists without her. Conflict happens without her. She is present, but not included. That has always been her place. But tonight, her thoughts are not fully in this room. They are still in the dungeon. Still in cell 66. Still trapped in that one moment when the beast stopped moving. When it looked at her as if it recognized something it was not supposed to recognize. And then there was that feeling. That strange pressure in her chest. She presses a hand lightly against it, trying to understand it logically, as she always does with things she cannot explain. But emotion is not logical. It refuses structure. It refuses rules. Her mind returns again and again to the image of golden eyes behind iron bars. Not wild. Not empty. Not mindless. But aware. Painfully aware. Elsewhere in the kingdom, far above the servant quarters, the royal tower stands under pale moonlight. Inside it, Alpha King Kael stands alone in a chamber built from dark stone and ancient design. The room is silent except for the faint sound of wind pressing against high windows. Kael is not resting. He rarely rests. A report has just been delivered to him moments ago. A report that should not have mattered, yet it did. An Omega was present near cell 66. Not just present. Acknowledged. The beast reacted. That detail repeats in his mind in a way he does not like. Kael is not a man who tolerates unpredictability. Everything in his rule is structure, control, consequence. The beast is part of that structure. A sealed variable. A controlled danger. Something that exists only because he allows it to. But reaction implies change. And change implies instability. He stands near the window, looking out over the kingdom that bows to him in silence. His expression remains unreadable, but something behind his eyes tightens slightly. Not emotion in the human sense, but recognition of inconsistency. He orders additional restrictions immediately. No Omega is to enter lower dungeon zones under any circumstance. Cell 66 access protocols are to be reinforced. Guards are to be rotated more frequently. His voice is calm when he gives these orders. But there is something colder beneath it. A sense that something invisible has already crossed a boundary it was never supposed to cross. Back in the dungeon, the beast remains still. Not asleep. Not unconscious. Still. But not empty. Its chains hang loosely now, no longer pulled with violent force. Its head is lowered, not in defeat, but in something closer to waiting. The muzzle remains locked tightly across its face, but the runes along it flicker faintly from time to time, reacting to something unseen. The beast remembers her. Not as a concept. Not as a guard presence. But as a feeling. A softness in the air that did not exist before. A voice that did not command it, threaten it, or punish it. Just acknowledged it. And in a life built entirely on control and pain, acknowledgement feels more dangerous than violence. Because violence is familiar. Kindness is not. Time passes unevenly in the kingdom's lower levels. There is no clear distinction between night and day underground. Only shifts, alarms, and duty cycles. Eventually, Lira is called again. Not by name. No one calls her that. She is simply assigned. Returned to duty. This time, closer to cell 66. Permanently. The announcement is delivered without emotion by a junior overseer who avoids eye contact with her the entire time, as if even looking at her too long might bring consequences. Lira listens silently. Something inside her drops slightly, but she does not show it. Not on her face. Not in her voice. She simply accepts the assignment as she accepts everything else. But as she walks back toward the lower dungeon corridors, something subtle shifts inside her. Not fear. Not resistance. Something quieter. Recognition. As if a path she did not choose is now revealing itself step by step. The closer she gets to cell 66 again, the heavier the air becomes. It is not physical weight, but emotional pressure. The kind that builds in silence. The kind that feels like memory forming before experience. The guards stationed near the entrance look at her differently this time. Not just disgust. Not just suspicion. Something closer to unease. Because word spreads fast in places like this, and fear spreads faster. They have heard she spoke near the beast. They have heard it responded. They have heard too much and understood too little. And that makes them more dangerous than before. One of them warns her again not to approach the cell directly. Not because he cares about her, but because if something happens again, it will fall on them as well. Responsibility in this kingdom is always shared downward. Lira nods once and continues. When she enters the corridor near cell 66, everything becomes familiar again. The chains. The silence. The pressure in the air. But this time, something is different. She feels watched before she sees anything. And when she turns slightly toward the cell, the beast is already looking at her. Still. Waiting. And something inside Lira tightens again. Not fear. Not confusion. Something closer to understanding beginning without permission. And in the darkness of Cell 66, where no one is supposed to be anything but forgotten, two broken existences recognize each other again. And neither of them knows yet that this is no longer coincidence. It is beginning. The third time Lira returns to Cell 66, the dungeon no longer feels like a place. It feels like a memory waiting to happen again. Not hers. Something older. Something heavier. The stone corridor is unchanged on the surface, but the atmosphere has shifted in ways no guard would admit. Torches flicker too slowly. Shadows stretch too long. Even footsteps sound like they are being swallowed instead of echoed. And Lira notices it immediately. Because people like her learn to read danger not from sight, but from feeling. She walks alone today. No escort. No guard holding her arm. Just a cloth, a bucket, and silence following her like a second shadow. The decision was not kindness. It was convenience. The guards no longer want to stand near her. Not after what happened last time. Not after the beast reacted. Not after silence turned into something alive. So now she is simply sent down as if distance can erase consequences. But distance never erases anything in this kingdom. It only delays it. As she moves deeper into the dungeon, the air becomes heavier again. The same pressure returns to her chest, but this time she does not stop walking. She recognizes it now. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough to know it is connected to Cell 66. Connected to him. The beast. A presence that should not have meaning, but does. Her footsteps slow slightly as she approaches the cleaning zone near the cell corridor. Dried blood still stains parts of the stone floor. No one bothers to fully clean this area. It is too close to something the kingdom prefers to forget exists. She kneels, placing her bucket down carefully. The sound echoes too loudly. Even that feels wrong. She dips the cloth into water and begins cleaning slowly, methodically, as she always does. Cleaning is one of the few things she understands. It has rules. It has outcomes. It does not lie. But today, even cleaning feels unstable. Because the silence is different. Not empty. Waiting. And then it happens. The chains. Far away. They move. Not violently. Not chaotically. But deliberately. Clink. Clink. A rhythm forming where none existed before. Lira pauses. Her hand stills against the stone floor. She does not look immediately. She listens. Because something inside her tells her this is not random. The sound continues. Clink. Clink. Slower now. More controlled. As if something inside Cell 66 is awake, and aware of her presence long before she reaches it. Slowly, she turns her head. The corridor leading to Cell 66 is partially visible from where she kneels. And there, the beast is moving. Not raging. Not attacking. Just shifting. Like it has been waiting too long in one position. And now it cannot pretend anymore. Lyra's breath catches slightly. She should look away. She knows she should. But she doesn't. Because something inside her refuses to treat it like a monster anymore. It feels wrong to call it that now. Not after the eyes. Not after the silence that felt like pain. The beast suddenly stops moving. Completely. And then, it looks directly at her. Again. Same golden eyes. Same depth. But now, there is something new. Recognition is no longer accidental. It is certain. Lira feels her chest tighten again. That strange emotional pressure returns. Stronger this time. She presses a hand lightly against it, trying to steady her breathing. And without thinking, she speaks. Not loudly. Not bravely. Just softly. Like a thought escaping before permission. You're still there. The moment the words leave her mouth, the dungeon feels like it collapses into silence. Even the chains stop reacting. Even the air feels frozen. Guards nearby stiffen instantly. Because Omegas do not speak to Cell 66. Ever. A guard from the far end of the corridor shouts immediately. Hey! What did you say? But Lira does not respond to him. Her eyes are still on the beast. And something is happening. The beast has stopped breathing heavily. It is not attacking. It is not reacting with violence. Instead, it moves closer to the bars. Slowly, carefully, as if testing whether the moment is real. The distance between them feels thinner now. Not physical. Emotional. Lira swallows. She doesn't understand why she is not afraid. She should be. Everything in her life has taught her to fear things like this. But instead, she feels something closer to sadness. Not hers. The beast's. She realizes it again. That strange emotional overlap. Like pain has found a way to cross boundaries. The beast's head lowers slightly. Not submission. Not aggression. Something softer. Something closer to listening. And Lira whispers again without meaning to. You're hurt, aren't you? This time, it is not a question. It is recognition. The dungeon reacts instantly. A guard rushes forward and grabs her arm hard. Enough. You are not allowed to speak. He pulls her away sharply. Her bucket falls again. Water spills across stone. The sound echoes too loudly. Too final. But Lyra's eyes never leave the cell. And as she is dragged back, she sees it. The beast reacts. Not violently. Not with rage. But with something far more dangerous. Loss. Its claws scrape lightly against the stone floor. Not breaking it. Not attacking it. Just reacting. As if something essential has been removed. A low sound escapes its throat again. Deeper this time. More fractured. Almost human. And for the first time, the beast looks less like a prisoner. And more like something that has been left behind. The guard drags Lira out of the corridor and releases her roughly into a wider intersection area where multiple passageways connect. His grip leaves red marks on her arm, but she does not complain. She adjusts herself silently, picking up the spilled bucket with slow movements. The guard breathes heavily, anger still present in his voice. You will report yourself to the overseer. Immediately. You are causing disturbances near restricted containment. Lira does not argue. She never argues. But inside her, something has already changed. Because she cannot forget the way the beast reacted. Not like a monster. Like something that understands being ignored. Being left. Being alone. She walks away without looking back. But even as she moves, she feels it. That presence behind her. Still watching. Still waiting. Meanwhile, far above the dungeon, inside the royal tower, the atmosphere is entirely different. Control is the foundation here. Not fear. Not chaos. Control. Alpha King Kael stands in the central war chamber, surrounded by advisors and stone maps of the kingdom. Reports are being delivered in careful tones, each word measured. But Kael is not fully listening. Because something from below has already entered his attention. The beast reacted again. To the same omega. The report repeats in his mind like a disturbance in an otherwise perfect system. Kael finally raises his hand. Silence falls immediately. Every advisor stops speaking. His voice is calm when he finally speaks. Bring me all reports related to Cell 66 activity in the last cycle. No one questions him. They simply obey. Because Kael does not raise his voice. He does not need to. His presence is enough. But when the reports arrive, and he reads them, something subtle shifts in his expression. Not anger. Not surprise. Calculation. Because patterns are forming. And Kael does not trust patterns that appear without intention. Especially not in something sealed for years. Especially not in something that should not respond. Back in the dungeon, Lira is reassigned again. This time, there is no announcement. No explanation. Just a change in duty slip placed into her hands. Permanent assignment near Cell 66 corridor. Closer. Always closer. The words feel heavier than they should. But she does not react outwardly. Only inside. Something like acceptance begins forming. Not chosen. But inevitable. She walks back slowly. And each step feels like she is returning not to punishment. But to something unfinished. Something waiting. When she reaches the corridor again, guards are already more alert than before. Their behavior has changed. They are not just watching her now. They are watching the cell. Like they are afraid it will react again. Like they are afraid she will trigger it again. And maybe they are right. Because when Lira steps into position near the cleaning zone, the silence inside cell 66 changes again. The beast is already awake. Already watching. And this time, it does not look away. Neither does she. And for the first time since this dungeon was built, the silence between prisoner and Omega begins to feel less like separation, and more like connection. Something forbidden. Something dangerous. Something that neither of them yet understands. But neither of them can stop. And deep inside cell 66, the beast shifts closer to the bars again. Not as a monster. Not as a weapon. But as something that has finally found the only presence that does not feel like fear. And Lira, standing in the cursed corridor of the northern pack, does not run. Because somewhere inside her chest, the silence has already started answering back. The kingdom does not wake up to noise. It wakes up to judgment. Because in the northern pack, power does not announce itself with war or celebration. It announces itself with consequences. And today, the consequence has a name. Lira. The summons arrives before dawn. No warning of kindness. No explanation of mercy. Just cold iron footsteps outside the servant quarters and a sealed order placed into her hands like she is already guilty before reading it. Lira stands silently as the messenger avoids her eyes. He does not speak. He does not linger. He leaves as quickly as he came, like proximity itself might be punished. The paper in her hands feels heavier than it should. Not because of weight. Because of meaning. She does not need to read it twice. Council summons. Immediate. Cell 66 violation inquiry. She already knows what this is. Not a hearing. Not a discussion. A stage. A controlled place where truth is not searched for, but selected. Lira is escorted this time. Not by one guard. But four. Their armor is heavier than usual, their steps more synchronized, as if fear has been standardized into procedure. No one speaks to her during the walk. No insults. No questions. That silence is worse than cruelty. Because it means she is no longer worth emotional effort. She walks between them like something already separated from the world. The corridors leading upward are different from the dungeon below. Cleaner. Brighter. More deliberate. Every stone here is designed to remind those walking through it that they are being watched by something greater. Authority. Control. Judgment. As they ascend, Lira feels the air change. It becomes less suffocating physically, but more suffocating emotionally. Because this is the kingdom's surface face. This is where decisions are made without seeing the consequences. And she is the consequence today. The council hall is not just a room. It is architecture built to intimidate truth itself. A circular chamber carved from pale stone, with towering pillars that seem too thin to support the weight of all the judgment they carry. High above, light filters through narrow openings like distant eyes watching everything below. At the center is a raised platform. And around it, seats. Full. Occupied. Silent. High council members of the Northern Pack. Lunars. War elders. Political voices wrapped in ceremonial authority. And at the very center of it all, Lady Seris. She sits like she belongs to the throne more than anyone else in the room. Her posture is perfect. Her expression controlled. But her eyes are sharp in a way that does not hide intent. It reveals it. When Lira is brought forward, a low murmur spreads through the council. Not surprise. Expectation. Because Omegas like her do not appear here unless something has already been decided. She is placed in the center circle. Alone. Surrounded. Exposed. The guards step back. The circle closes. And the silence begins. Lady Seris stands first. Her voice is calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that has already rehearsed victory. She speaks without looking at Lira directly at first, addressing the council instead. An Omega was present near Cell 66. Violation of sacred restriction protocols. Unauthorized emotional contact with a sealed entity. The words are carefully chosen. Not emotional. Not exaggerated. Structured. Because structure makes accusations harder to challenge. Murmurs rise again. Some council members shift uncomfortably. Others remain still. Kael is not present yet. That detail alone makes Lira's chest tighten slightly. Because absence of power is never accidental. It is strategic. Seris continues. She claims the beast responded abnormally. That containment stability was compromised. That Lira's presence introduced unpredictability into a system built for control. Then she pauses. And finally looks at Lira. Directly. And smiles slightly. Now she becomes personal. Execution is recommended. The word drops into the room like stone into water. No splash. Just sinking pressure. Lira feels it immediately. Not fear of death. But recognition of how easily it is spoken here. How casually it is offered. Like removing a variable. Not a life. The council reacts in controlled ways. Some agree silently. Some hesitate. But none object loudly. Because objection requires risk. And in this kingdom, survival is often louder than morality. Seris steps back. The decision now belongs to the room. And the room leans toward silence. That is when the doors open. Alpha King Kael enters. And everything changes instantly. Not because he is loud. He is not. Not because he is dramatic. He is not. But because space itself reacts to him. Every conversation dies mid-breath. Every movement stills. Even the air feels disciplined. Kael walks slowly to the center without acknowledging anyone immediately. His eyes scan the room once. Then they land on Lira. She is still standing. Small. Exposed. But not collapsed. That detail registers in him. He steps forward slightly. The council waits. He does not sit. He speaks. And his voice is calm. But absolute. She is not worth killing. A pause. Return her. No debate follows. Because there is no opening for debate. The decision is not argued with Kael. It is absorbed. But Seris smiles again. Not because she has won. But because she has planted something that will grow later. And Kael does not see it yet. Lira is released. Not freed. Returned. The difference matters. Before she is taken away, Seris leans slightly closer as she passes. Her voice is soft enough that only Lira hears it. One mistake more, and even the beast will reject your existence. The words are meant to break her. But Lira does not respond. She never responds. Because response gives ownership. And she has nothing left to give. That night, the kingdom is quieter than usual. But not peaceful. Controlled silence is never peace. It is anticipation. Kael stands alone in the upper observation chamber again. Looking down toward the lower districts. Toward Cell 66 direction. He does not speak for a long time. Because something is wrong in the pattern. The beast is calmer. Too calm. Not stable calm. Reactive calm. Like something has replaced instinct with awareness. And Kael does not like unknown replacements inside sealed systems. He reviews reports again. Omega interaction. Beast response. Containment fluctuation. Emotional stabilization indicators. The last one makes him pause. Emotional stabilization. That should not exist. Not in that entity. Not in that condition. He closes the report slowly. Something inside him shifts slightly. Not emotion. Assessment. Because now the beast is no longer just a containment issue. It is a variable responding to external influence. And that influence is Lira. Back in the dungeon, Lira returns to Cell 66 corridor again. She does not ask why. She does not resist. Because resistance has never changed outcomes in her life. Only consequences. But something feels different now. The guards look at her differently. Not just suspicion. But unease. Like she is no longer just an omega. But a trigger. A cause of something they do not understand. She is placed near her usual cleaning zone again. And she kneels slowly. But this time. She hesitates before starting, because she already knows what is waiting beyond the bars. And somehow, she also knows it will look back. Inside cell 66. The beast is already there. Waiting. Still. Not chained in movement anymore, but chained in presence. Its head tilts slightly when she arrives. And for the first time, it does not feel like coincidence. It feels like recognition. Lira lowers her eyes slowly, but not completely. And between them, the silence changes again. Because now it is not empty. It is shared. And somewhere deep inside the Northern Pack's oldest dungeon, something that was never meant to be understood begins forming quietly between prisoner and Omega. Not freedom yet. Not love yet. But something far more dangerous. Connection. And above them, the kingdom continues to believe it is in control. While beneath it, control has already started to break. The storm does not arrive like weather in the Northern Pack. It arrives like punishment. As if the sky itself has remembered something it was never allowed to forget. Heavy clouds gather over the royal fortress, pressing down on stone towers and iron gates until even the strongest structures seem smaller beneath them. The wind does not blow gently here. It drags. It pulls. It pushes against everything living like it wants to test what will break first. And deep below all of it, Cell 66 listens. Not with ears. With presence. Lira is sent down again before the storm fully breaks. This time alone. Not because it is safe, but because no one wants to be there when it happens. The guards at the corridor entrance avoid her eyes entirely. Their behavior has shifted again over the past days. It is no longer simple dislike or suspicion. It is something closer to discomfort mixed with fear. As if her presence has become associated with events they cannot predict. One of them hands her the food bucket without speaking. Their fingers touch for only a second, but he pulls away quickly like contact itself is dangerous. No one gives her instructions today. No one repeats the rules. They assume she knows. Or they assume it no longer matters. Lira walks forward anyway. Because she always walks forward. Even when she shouldn't. Even when everything in her life has taught her that forward leads only to pain. As she enters the lower dungeon corridor, the sound of rain begins to echo faintly through the stone structure above. At first it is distant, like memory. But as she moves deeper, it becomes clearer. Water running through cracks. Wind pushing through ventilation gaps. Thunder rolling across the fortress like a warning spoken too far away to fully understand. The air feels unstable. Charged. Alive in a way that does not belong underground. And Lira feels it immediately. Something is wrong. Not with the dungeon. With what is inside it. Cell 66 is visible before she reaches it fully. And already, it is reacting. The chains are not still. They are trembling. Not violently. Not chaotically. But rhythmically. Like something inside is struggling to maintain control over itself. The muzzle glows faintly. Not bright enough to illuminate the cell. But bright enough to be noticed. A soft, unnatural pulse of ancient runes embedded in black metal. Lira stops walking for half a second. Her chest tightens in response. Not fear. That feeling has changed over time. Now it is something else. Recognition mixed with instinct. As if her body knows something her mind still refuses to fully accept. She continues forward. Slowly. Carefully. And the moment she steps into the cleaning zone near the cell, everything changes. The beast is not standing. It is on the ground. Kneeling. Breathing heavily. Chain stretched tighter than before, not because it is pulling, but because something inside it is forcing contraction outward. Its massive form shakes slightly with each breath. The muzzle is no longer just glowing. It is reacting. Pulsing faster. As if responding to pressure from within. And then Lira sees it. The first crack. Small. Barely visible. On the side of the muzzle. A thin fracture line running across one rune. She freezes. The bucket slips slightly from her hand but does not fall. The sound of it hitting stone echoes too loudly in the silence. The beast reacts instantly. Its head lifts. Slowly. Not aggressively. Not violently, but painfully. And their eyes meet again. But this time, something is different. The beast is not only looking at her. It is suffering because of her presence. Lira steps back instinctively. A guard shouts from behind the corridor entrance. "Stay away from it." But his voice feels distant, unimportant, because Lira's attention is no longer on authority. It is on the beast. And the beast is trembling harder now. Its claws scrape against the stone floor. Not attacking, trying to stabilize itself. The muzzle glows brighter, and the crack spreads slightly. Another line forms. Then another. The runes begin to flicker irregularly, as if losing synchronization. Lyra's breathing becomes uneven. She does not understand what she is seeing, but she feels it. Deeply. Something in her chest reacts with the same rhythm, like invisible resonance between two broken things. And before she can stop herself, she takes one step closer. The beast makes a sound. Not a growl. Not a warning. A broken exhale. Like relief and pain happening at the same time. Its body lowers further, as if it cannot hold itself upright anymore. Chains tighten. Stone cracks slightly beneath its weight. And then, it collapses fully onto one side. The sound is heavy, but not destructive. Defeated. Lira moves instinctively. No. It leaves her lips before she can think. She steps forward again, now fully inside the danger radius. The guards behind her begin shouting louder, but their voices feel far away now, like they belong to another world. Because what she sees in front of her is no longer a creature. It is suffering, raw, unfiltered, and directed at her. The beast's eyes are open, still watching her, even while collapsing, even while in pain. It does not attack. It does not lash out. It only trembles. The muzzle's glow intensifies again. And then, a sound escapes it. Not roar, not growl. A fractured voice, almost forming words but breaking apart before completion. Lira stops completely. Her heart beats too fast. Because this is new. This has never happened before. The beast is trying to speak. Its body convulses slightly. Chains rattle violently for a second. But instead of aggression, there is clarity. A painful kind. And then it looks at her again. Longer. Deeper. As if pushing through something internal just to reach her. And it speaks. Broken. Shattered. Barely formed. Hurts. The word is incomplete. But it is there. Lira freezes. Her mind struggles to process it. Because monsters do not speak. Not like that. Not with meaning. Not with emotion. The beast breathes again. And this time, the word comes closer to structure. Stop. It pauses. The muzzle glows violently. Another crack spreads. Lira steps forward again without realizing. Stop what? Her voice is barely audible. But the beast reacts. Its head lifts slightly. And for the first time, it responds directly to her voice. Not instinctively. Not violently. Intentionally. Break. The word fractures again. But the meaning is clear enough. Something inside the muzzle is destabilizing. Not just physical restraint. Something deeper. Something connected to its very existence. The storm above intensifies. Thunder shakes the fortress. Rain pours harder. But underground, the sound feels distant. Because all attention is now inside cell 66. The beast convulses again. And this time, the crack on the muzzle expands sharply. A sharp sound echoes. Metal shifting under pressure it was never designed to endure. Lira instinctively steps closer again. No, don't. She does not know if she is speaking to it, or to the situation, or to herself. But she moves anyway. Because something inside her refuses to let it suffer alone. She reaches the edge of the cell bars. Her hand trembles slightly. And before logic stops her, she places her hand on the muzzle again. The moment she touches it, everything reacts. The runes explode into light. Not destructive. Responsive. The beast jerks violently, but not away from her. Towards stabilization. Like her touch is the anchor it has been missing. Lira gasps. Pain shoots through her hand. But she does not pull away. Because beneath the pain, she feels something else. Connection. Direct. Unfiltered. As if her presence is being written into something ancient and irreversible. The beast emits a sound again. This time louder. But not aggressive. Liberating. The muzzle cracks further. A visible fracture splits across its center. Light bursts outward. And for the first time in years, the restraint does not fully obey itself. Guards rush closer. Panic now fully present in their voices. Step away. Now. But Lira does not move. She cannot. Because the beast is no longer just reacting. It is changing. Its body shifts between forms. Massive wolf-like structure flickering with something more human beneath it. The chains begin to lose tension slightly. Not breaking yet. But weakening. The system is destabilizing. Because the bond between muzzle and beast is collapsing. And Lira is at the center of it. The beast lifts its head fully now. Eyes locked on her. And for the first time, its voice becomes clearer. Not broken fragments. But something closer to language. Don't leave. The words are simple. But they hit harder than anything before. Lira's breath stops. Because this is not command. Not threat. Not instinct. It is request. Raw. Emotional. Human. And in that moment, something changes permanently. Between prisoner and omega. Between monster and girl. Between fear and recognition. The muzzle cracks one final time. And the sound it makes is not destruction. It is release. The moment the muzzle cracks open fully, the world inside cell 66 stops behaving like a prison. It stops behaving like structure. It stops behaving like control. Because control only works when everything obeys the rules it was built on. And right now, something fundamental has broken. Not just metal. Not just magic. Something deeper. Something older. Something that was never meant to be touched by an Omega's bare hands. The sound that follows the final crack is not loud in the way explosions are loud. It is worse. It is quiet. A deep, hollow silence that feels like the absence of law itself. For a single heartbeat, even the storm above seems to hesitate. The rain continues. The thunder rolls. But inside the dungeon, everything becomes still. As if the world is waiting to see what has been undone. Lira's hand is still pressed against the broken muzzle. Her fingers tremble slightly, not because she pulls away, but because the energy flowing through the metal is no longer stable. It pulses under her touch like a living thing that has finally remembered it can move. Pain lingers in her palm, but it is no longer sharp. It is transforming. From injury into sensation. From resistance into connection. She does not understand it. She only feels it. And in front of her, the beast changes. The beast's body rises slowly from the ground. Not violently. Not suddenly. But as if something inside it has been unshackled and is learning how to exist again. The chains around its limbs tighten for a moment as it moves. Then, they snap slightly. Not fully. But enough. Enough for sound to change. Enough for metal to admit weakness. Its massive form trembles as if its bones are rewriting their own memory of restraint. The glow from the muzzle spreads across its face and then fractures outward like shattered light. And for the first time in years, its breathing becomes unfiltered. Lira takes one small step back. Not out of fear, but instinct. Because the presence in front of her is no longer the same thing she has been speaking to. It is shifting. Becoming. And anything in transition carries danger simply because it is undefined. The beast lifts its head fully now. Golden eyes remain the same. But something behind them is different. Not rage. Not emptiness. Awareness. Sharp. Clear. Focused entirely on her. The dungeon guards finally react. Their voices erupt from the corridor like breaking order. Weapons are raised. Alarm horns begin to echo through stone corridors above and below. The entire fortress is being alerted now. Not because of movement, but because containment logic has failed. A sealed entity is no longer behaving as sealed. That is enough to trigger collapse protocols. But none of that matters inside Cell 66 anymore. Because what is happening here is not a breach. It is a transformation. The beast takes one step forward. The sound of chains dragging across stone is no longer dominant. Because some of them are no longer attached in the same way. They still exist. But they no longer define movement. It stops inches from Lira. Close enough that she can feel its breath. Warm. Alive. Unrestrained in a way that did not exist before. It tilts its head slightly. As if testing reality. As if testing her. Lira does not move. Her body is tense, but not frozen. Something inside her refuses to treat this as danger alone. Because if this was only danger, she would already be running. But she is not. And that realization itself is unsettling. The beast lowers its head slightly. Not submission. Not aggression. Something in between. Recognition without fear. Then it speaks again. But this time, the voice is different. Still fractured. Still raw. But more stable than before. Not a growl forming words. A voice trying to exist as voice. Not cage. The words are incomplete, but the meaning lands heavily. Lyra's throat tightens slightly. She whispers without realizing. You're out. The beast reacts immediately to her voice again. Its eyes sharpen. Focus intensifies. And for a brief moment, something like emotional response crosses its expression. Not animal instinct. Not programmed behavior. Reaction to understanding. The guards shout again. Closer now. Bootsteps echoing through corridor stone. The alarm grows louder. But none of it reaches the space between them. Because something else is louder. Silence filled with meaning. The beast takes another step forward. Chains strain. One more weak link snaps. Metal falls heavily to the ground. The sound echoes like surrender. Lira finally steps back again. Not because she is afraid. But because the space between them has changed. It is no longer safe in the way safety is defined by distance. It is safe in a different way. An emotional way. An unfamiliar way. And unfamiliarity is its own kind of danger. The beast watches her carefully. Then lowers its head slightly again. And something shifts in its posture. Protection. Not aggression. Protection. A guard finally reaches the edge of the cell corridor and sees it fully. He stops. His voice breaks as he shouts. It's unbound. More soldiers arrive behind him. Weapons are aimed immediately. Not at Lira. At the beast. But the beast does not respond to them. It responds only to her. And when one guard takes a step closer, the beast moves. Not toward him. Between him and Lira. Blocking. Instantly. The movement is so fast that even experienced soldiers freeze. Because monsters do not protect. Not like that. Not with intention. Not with positioning. The beast stands fully now, towering in the broken light of the dungeon, its massive form now partially freed from restraint. Chains hang loose across its body, some still attached, some broken halfway, some dragging uselessly. But none of them control it anymore. Not fully. Lyra's breath becomes uneven. Because the implication is starting to settle. This is not just a release of physical restraint. Something deeper has changed. The beast is choosing. And it has chosen to stand between her and violence. One guard shouts again. Kill it before it stabilizes. The order is immediate. Sharp. Terrified. But before anyone can act, the beast speaks again. Louder this time. More stable. Mine. It pauses. Struggles. Then continues. Not hurt. The words are broken. But intentional. And they land like a shockwave. Because meaning is no longer hidden behind noise. It is present. Lyra's eyes widen slightly. Not in fear. But in realization. It understands. It is not just reacting. It understands what is happening around it. And it is choosing response. That is the moment everything shifts. Because understanding changes classification. And classification changes everything the kingdom believes about containment. The guards hesitate. For the first time. Because they are no longer facing an unknown beast. They are facing something that speaks. Something that responds. Something that protects. And that makes it infinitely more dangerous to the system than before. Lira slowly lowers her hand from the broken muzzle area. Her fingers shake slightly, but she does not feel immediate withdrawal. Instead, she feels echo. Like something in her has been touched and is still resonating. She looks at the beast again. And whispers without thinking. "You're not just hurting anymore." The beast reacts instantly to her voice again. Head turning slightly toward her. Focus sharpening. As if her words matter more than the guards shouting behind her. The dungeon suddenly shakes. Not from the beast. But from above. Movement in the fortress. More alarms. More orders. The Alpha King is being informed. This is no longer a local containment issue. It is escalation. But inside Cell 66, time continues differently. The beast takes another step forward. Then stops. Not aggressive. Waiting. As if unsure what comes next. As if it has broken something but not yet learned what replaces it. Lira takes a slow breath. And instead of stepping back again, she stays. The silence between them deepens. Not empty. Full. Full of everything that was never spoken. Pain. Recognition. Confusion. Connection. And somewhere in that silence, a new rule begins forming. Not imposed. Not enforced. But created. Between two beings who were never meant to meet like this. And above them, the kingdom prepares to respond to something it does not yet understand. But inside Cell 66, the beast no longer feels like a prisoner. And Lira no longer feels like just an omega. Because something irreversible has already begun. And unchaining is no longer just physical. It is becoming fate. The moment the beast speaks inside Cell 66, the entire fortress begins to feel unstable. Not because stone is breaking. Not because chains are falling. But because the idea of control itself is starting to crack. And in the Northern Pack, control is not just structure. It is law. It is identity. It is survival. So when something controlled begins to think, everything above it begins to panic. Deep inside the dungeon corridor, alarms continue echoing like distant thunder trapped in stone. Guards rush through narrow passages, boots striking the ground in chaotic rhythm. Voices overlap, orders collide. Fear spreads faster than discipline can hold it together. But none of it reaches Cell 66 in the same way anymore. Because something inside that space has already changed the rules of what can be heard. What can be ignored. What can be denied. Lira stands still. Her hand is still slightly raised near where the broken muzzle once pulsed with cursed energy. Her fingers tremble faintly, not from pain now, but from aftershock. Something in her body feels different, like she has crossed a boundary that cannot be stepped back over. The beast is in front of her. Not fully restrained anymore. Not fully free either. A state between existence and release. Chains hang loosely across its body, some snapped, some melted, some still attached but no longer meaningful. Its breathing is steadying, but uneven in a way that suggests it is learning how to breathe again without permission. And its eyes remain fixed on her. Not wild. Not lost. Focused. Aware. Waiting. Then everything changes again. Not gradually. Not softly. Instantly. A pressure drops across the entire dungeon system like a weight being placed on reality itself. The air tightens. The torches flicker in synchronized hesitation. Even distant sound from above seems to pause mid-echo. Every guard in the lower levels feels it before they understand it. Presence. Authority. Arrival. Alpha King Kael has entered the dungeon system. And the fortress reacts like a living organism recognizing its heart has begun to move. The corridor outside Cell 66 becomes completely silent for a fraction of a second. That silence is more frightening than chaos, because it signals discipline returning in its purest form. Then footsteps begin. Slow. Measured. Controlled. Each one spaced perfectly, as if the person walking does not need urgency to command attention. Guards immediately step aside without being told. No one questions. No one delays. Because even fear recognizes hierarchy. Kael appears at the far end of the corridor. He does not rush. He does not react outwardly. But the moment he steps into view, the entire atmosphere changes again. The guards straighten instantly. Weapons lower without instruction. Even panic organizes itself into silence. Because this is not just an alpha. This is the Alpha King. And his presence does not ask for space. It claims it. Kael walks forward slowly, his gaze already scanning the corridor ahead. He sees the damage before he sees the cause. Broken chain links on the ground. Strange scorch marks on stone. Residual energy patterns flickering faintly in the air like dying signals from a system that has been forcibly interrupted. His expression does not change. But something behind his eyes tightens slightly. Because he understands immediately. This is not normal failure. This is transformation. As he approaches cell 66, the guards instinctively step further back. Some avoid looking at him directly. Others watch him like a lifeline they are afraid to touch. But Kael does not acknowledge them. His attention is already locked forward. And then he sees it. Lira. Standing in front of the cell. Alive. Untouched by immediate harm. But not untouched by consequence. Her posture is tense but stable. Her breathing uneven but conscious. Her eyes fixed on something in front of her that no one else in the corridor fully understands yet. And in front of her, the beast. No longer fully restrained. No longer fully contained. Standing. Watching. Protecting. Kael stops walking. For the first time since entering the dungeon system. He does not move immediately. He observes. Because what he is seeing does not match the structure of what should be possible. A beast that was classified as uncontrollable. An omega that was classified as irrelevant. And a containment system that is now visibly incomplete. The beast reacts the moment Kael's presence fully registers in the space. Its body tenses. But it does not attack. It does not retreat. It shifts slightly, positioning itself. Not against Kael. Between Kael and Lira. That single movement changes everything in Kael's perception. Because instinct is not supposed to choose alignment like that. Instinct is supposed to obey dominance. But this is not obedience. This is decision. Kael steps forward again. One step. Then another. His voice does not rise. It does not need to. What has happened here? The words are not a question. They are observation disguised as command. Lira turns slightly. Her eyes meet his. For a fraction of a second, she hesitates. Because this is not a guard. Not an overseer. Not a council member. This is the Alpha King. And everything she has ever known about survival tells her that this moment is dangerous in ways she cannot calculate. But she answers anyway. Quietly. I didn't mean to break anything. Kael studies her. Not her words. Her condition. Her presence. The residual energy still faintly surrounding her hand. Then his gaze shifts. To the beast. The beast does something unexpected again. It lowers its head slightly. Not submission. Recognition. A controlled acknowledgement of dominance that is not fear-based. Kael notices immediately. His eyes narrow slightly. Because that is not standard behavior. Not for this entity. Not for this classification. Kael steps closer to the cell. The guards behind him remain frozen. Lira does not move. The beast does not move either. But the space between all three of them feels like it is compressing. Like reality itself is narrowing into a single point of confrontation. Kael finally speaks again. His voice remains calm. But now there is pressure underneath it. What did you do to it? Lira hesitates. Because the answer does not fit into language she understands. She looks at the beast briefly. Then back at Kael. I think it reacted to me. Silence follows instantly. Not confusion. Not disbelief. Calculation. Kael takes another step closer. The beast does not attack. It remains in protective alignment. Still between Kael and Lira. But not hostile. Just watchful. And Kael notices that too. Every detail. Every deviation. Every inconsistency. Then something subtle happens. The beast shifts slightly again. And speaks. Barely. Not hurt. The words are broken. But directed. Not at Kael. At the space between Kael and Lira. Kael freezes for a fraction of a second. That is the first undeniable rupture in his internal model. Because the beast was never documented as capable of stabilized vocal response. Kael's gaze sharpens. He looks at Lira again. And for the first time, his voice changes slightly. Not softer, but more focused. What are you? The question is not insult. It is classification failure. Lira does not answer immediately. Because she does not know the answer. She only knows what she felt. What she saw. What changed when she touched something she was never supposed to touch. I don't know, she finally says. Honest. Unfiltered. Human. The beast reacts to her voice again. Slight movement. Subtle alignment toward her sound. Kael sees it instantly. And now the pattern is undeniable. The beast is not reacting to authority. It is reacting to her. Kael exhales slowly through his nose. Not frustration. Not anger. Something more controlled. Understanding beginning to form against expectation. He looks at the broken muzzle fragments still glowing faintly on the ground. Then at Lyra's hand. Then at the beast. And finally, he says something no one in the corridor expected. Everyone out. The command is immediate. Absolute. No debate follows. No hesitation. Within seconds, the corridor empties except for three presences. Kael. Lira. The beast. Silence becomes heavier now. Not empty. Focused. Kael steps fully into the space in front of cell 66. The beast does not attack. But it does not move aside either. It remains positioned between him and Lira. Kael studies it carefully. Then speaks again. Calm. Controlled. You are not behaving within containment parameters. The beast does not respond. Not verbally. But its eyes remain locked. Kael turns his gaze slightly to Lira. And you? A pause. You should not exist in this proximity. Lira does not respond. Because she understands something instinctively now. She is not supposed to be part of this system. But she already is. The beast shifts again. And Kael notices something else. The chains are no longer primary restraint. They are secondary now. The real change is internal. Behavioral. Selective response. Emotional orientation. Kael's expression hardens slightly. Not in anger. But recognition of systemic failure. Then he speaks again. Explain. One word. Final. Lira looks down briefly. Then speaks quietly. I think it was, alone. The word lands differently than expected. Not technical. Not political. Not strategic. Emotional. For the first time, Kael does not respond immediately. He looks at the beast. Longer this time. And something subtle changes in his perception. Not approval. Not understanding. Acknowledgement of unknown variable. The beast moves slightly again. But this time. Not toward Lira. Not toward Kael. Just adjusting its stance. As if waiting for the next instruction that no longer exists. Kael finally speaks again. And this time his voice is lower. Measured. What happens next is not documented. A pause. And that is unacceptable. But even as he says it, he does not move to destroy it. He does not order termination. He does not enforce reset. Because something inside him recognizes a truth he has not yet named. This is no longer just containment failure. This is evolution. And evolution cannot be ordered back into silence. Lira looks at the beast again. The beast looks at her. And for a moment, the entire dungeon feels like it is holding its breath. Because something irreversible has already begun. And even the Alpha King is now inside its consequences.